Recording in progress.
But students have up to 5 years to complete the degree, and there are some flexible evening and online options too for the MPH, which I can touch on in a minute. In terms of the overall structure for the MPH, in terms of coursework, everyone has core coursework. Those are the same three, what we call integrated core courses that are the same across all MPH programs. Every MPH student that comes through the school takes those three courses. You'd also have a set of core courses for your chosen concentration area. So each of those concentrations on the right-hand side there have a set of courses that all of their students take. So those are dependent on which program you come into. And then lastly, you have a set of elective coursework. So that varies. That can be a full sub-concentration, something like a global health or maternal child health, something like that. Or it can just be courses that you take, you talk with your advisor and take things in your interest area to supplement your degree. For the two non-coursework pieces for the MPH, we have two. The applied practice experience is the internship component of the program. That's 3 to 5 credit hours. Students do go out and actually get actual work experience for the MPH. That is required. A full-time student going through the program in kind of the traditional format would typically do it the summer between their first and second year in the program, but it is extremely flexible. People who are working full-time, people who are part-time can do it at different points in the program, so there is flexibility there too. And then the final project, the integrative learning experience, is your final project. So that's a 1-credit project that you do during your final semester in the MPH. In terms of options, so as you're thinking about applying in for the MPH, you do have to choose a concentration to apply to with that base application. So you see those on the right-hand side there. I'll talk through them briefly. Community health sciences is definitely the on-the-ground people side of public health, working in health education, health promotion, looking at implementing and developing different health programming, really on the ground. Students from that program tend to work for nonprofits, NGOs, community-based health organizations, really going out and impacting health in the communities. You do see I have kind of a sub-bullet there, the maternal and child health. I like to point that one out. That is the one sub-concentration at the school that you do have to apply to with your base application. And that sounds kind of what it sounds like, focuses on mothers, infant mortality rates, family health, those types of things. So if you're interested in those areas, and they have a great center for research under the MCH program, you do have to apply for that up front because they don't have enough seats for all students. Other sub-concentrations at the school, which I'll touch on in a bit, those can be added during your first year in the program. Next up is environmental and occupational health, more of a science-based program focused in environmental and workplace factors on health. So things like air quality, water quality, industrial hygiene, which is workplace and worker health. So that's all through the EOHS program. Students from that program may work for environmental agencies like EPA, may work in research, definitely more science-focused careers out of the EOHS program. Epidemiology and biostatistics. Important to note, those are one academic division, but they are two separate programs. So you apply for either epidemiology or biostatistics. Epi is the core science of public health. So it looks at things like infectious disease, chronic disease, infectious disease breakouts, and it is more of a quantitative program. So you get into higher level quantitative methods courses and more data analysis on public health issues. Students from Epi may work for Center for Disease Control, World Health Organization, departments of public health, and are definitely doing more of the quantitative side of public health work. And similarly, biostatistics, and part of the reason they're in the same program is even further on the data side. So it's very specifically data analysis for public health issues. Tend to work more in research for work for pharmaceutical companies, doing ad hoc research projects for different public health programs. Definitely are the people everyone goes to with their public health data and says, we need you to analyze this for us. So that's a biostatistician. Health policy administration is more on the governmental side of public health. So focuses more on overall healthcare systems, legal and ethical factors in public health, organizational leadership, those types of things. So those tend to be the policymakers, maybe working in departments of public health, maybe working in governmental organizations. Some go more on the political side as like policy advocates advocating for health reform and different health changes in the government system. Lastly, public health informatics is a fully online program. That's the only one that is only offered online, and that is focused more on kind of back-end data, public health databases, those types of things. So definitely more back-end database focus with the PHI program. Like I noted, that one's online. We'd like to also point out community health and health policy administration both also offer a fully online version of the program. Many of the programs do offer at least a hybrid. You'd have at least some online course options, and we do now have our full set of those initial core courses I talked about available in the evening as well. So there is more flexibility with the MPH if you're working and need evening and or online programs too. We do also have research-focused programs. So definitely students sometimes are curious, what's the difference between an MPH and an MS? The big difference there, the MS, the Master of Science, also a 2-year program as a full-time student, but that is a research-focused master's degree. So all students in an MS program take that higher level quantitative courses, and then instead of the field work, so instead of having an internship and a project, there is a full research thesis. So you're actually doing a research thesis in that program. And your upper level coursework is more concentration specific. You don't have as many of those broad core courses that I talked about on the MPH side. And you can see the programs that offer the MS there below it. MS students are really more prepared to either move directly into a PhD program or take on research careers. That isn't to say someone who does an MPH can't do a doctoral program down the road, but usually they would go out and work for a few years before applying back. MS students are very often prepared to move directly into a PhD program if that's what they're looking for. You will notice there are 2 programs there too that are not offered at the MPH level. Our Big Data Health Analytics program, which is offered under biostatistics. So it's a biostatistics thread with overall health analytics focus. And then the Clinical and Translational Science program, which is focused on clinical research. So that program tends to be more clinicians coming back to add a research-focused degree or want to do clinical research. So that program is available as well. At the doctoral level, we have 2 degrees. Our research-focused degree is the traditional PhD, the Doctor of Philosophy, the one most people are pretty familiar with. It's 96 credit hours in total. 64 of that is coursework, and then you have a comprehensive exam to show you have everything down, and then you move into the dissertation phase. So there's 32 credit hours of research on the back end where you're doing your dissertation. The PhD does have a teaching requirement included, and then you do a full independent research dissertation. So that's actually adding knowledge to the field. So that's the dissertation component for a PhD, and that is offered by all of those academic divisions I talked about on the MPH side. One last master's option, we also have the MHA, the Master of Healthcare Administration. And in a lot of ways, the MHA is kind of a combination between the MPH and then an MBA, a business degree. Because you get some of those public health concepts, but then you also get those business and finance focused courses. I noted the CAMI accreditation, that's the Healthcare Administration accrediting body. We actually just had our site visit, so we should be reaccredited for that. That program has 2 different tracks, as you can see. So we have the traditional track, that's 2 years again as a full-time student. Again, there is flexibility if you want to be part-time. And even more so than some other programs, there's a lot of evening and online options for MHA if you need that. The traditional track tends to be for people who are either early in their career or don't have healthcare administration experience. One of the big things for our MHA program is they have a full 1-year preceptorship, which is, again, an internship component. That's over the entire second year of the program. So you really get a lot of work experience in that program, which does build up your resume then as you're looking for jobs at the end of that second year. And similar to the MPH, you have a final capstone project for that program too. We do also offer an executive track for the MHA. The executive track requires that you have at least 3 years of healthcare experience. So that program is definitely designed for people who are working full-time. It is primarily online, and then there are 4 weekend sessions per semester when you're in the executive track. So people who have been working in the field and want to come back to add an MHA have that executive option as well. Lastly, our DRPH, our Doctor of Public Health, is our online doctoral program. DRPH, where it differs from the PhD, is that it is a professional doctoral degree. So whereas a PhD is really suited for someone who wants to do research and or get like a faculty type position, DRPH is more suited for someone who's out mid-career level in public health and wants to take on high-level leadership roles, but stay on the practice side, stay in the organization they're in or lead other public health organizations. So the program is focused in health leadership. So again, tailored to mid-career professionals, ideally someone who has an MPH, has gone out and working for at least 3 years in the field and is now ready to kind of take on leadership roles in an organization. This program is fully online and is only offered part-time. They have a strong preference for students to continue working full-time while they're in the program. The only on-site coursework, or the only on-site component is a 3-day summer institute that they hold each August. And then the actual coursework is a mixture of synchronous and asynchronous. So typically students are taking 2 courses per semester. One is synchronous, where you're online in a virtual classroom setting, typically early evening hours Central Time. And then the other course is usually asynchronous, where you're more traditional online, deadline driven, those types of things. Students who have so the program does require a previous master's degree. Students can get up to 32 credit hours for that. Someone with an MPH would almost certainly get those 32 credit hours. Someone without an MPH may get most of them, but may need to take some of the core MPH courses as well. DRPH is closed for this year, so they don't have any more prospective student webinars for this year, but if you email drph@uic.edu, they could share their recording from their last webinar. Otherwise, if you're looking at it for next cycle, they'll offer more this fall. Do also like to point out our global health concentration here. Just because a lot of other schools of public health do offer it as a standalone MPH, we think it really does tie into all the different areas of public health, so allow all of our students across all those other programs to add it. So it's not something you have to apply to with your initial application. During your first semester, you can add the global health concentration, and you'd be able to do that then over the next year and a half in the program. Students in that have a set of courses that is global health focused. Their internship has to have a global health focus, and then their final project has to have a global health focus. For the internship, there are opportunities to do that abroad. We have quite a few different opportunities, and the program could share more about those if you're interested, but I know we have some in Kenya and in a variety of places where students have gone regularly. And it prepares students to work in international careers, working to help develop health infrastructure in different countries and a variety of different skills. So global health is available at the school as well. Not going to go into too much detail on these, but I do like to at least point them out. We have a range of joint degrees and certificates as well. Joint degrees are essentially combination degrees. So you're doing 2 degrees at the same time. And the big benefit to those is that you're sharing credit hours, and it usually takes less time and money to complete both degrees. So we have it with medicine, the MBA, MSW with social work, MUP, which is the urban planning program, dentistry, and then veterinary medicine. We're actually just launching a JD with the UIC Law School this year as well, so I need to add that to this list after this presentation. So I'll talk about the MSW MPH, for instance. Each of those are 2-year degrees, so it'd be 4 years if you did them independently. You can do the joint degree in 3 years. So it saves you a year, which saves you a year of tuition as well. So that's the big benefit to doing a joint degree, especially for a student who really wants both degrees anyway. And in many cases, as you can see, a lot of these are clinical degrees where students want to have that clinical experience and get their clinical degree, but then they also want the more population health focus and look at prevention and those types of things that the MPH gives you. And then the MBA, on the other hand, that joint degree gives students a really good foundation to take on leadership roles in public health organizations too. So those joint degrees are available. Happy to answer questions on those, or you can always reach out to me after the session too if you have more specific questions. The certificate programs are sets of online courses in specific interest areas. You can see what those are there. Usually 3 to 5 courses are included in those certificates. Those tend to be suited for either someone who's out working in the field and an employer wants them to come back to get expertise in a certain area, or sometimes students will start taking courses. They want to take some courses either prior to enrolling, or they want to see if it's a good fit. So those are available as well. For that end, most students would do the health disparities research. It's a good kind of intro into health disparities. And then that PHI, the public health informatics, is good if someone's looking at the informatics program too. So with that, I can jump into the application process. So that is still open for this fall for all of our master's level programs. So the master's level programs are open until April 15th, and I'll get to the deadline. So there is still time to apply. I'll get to that in a moment. In terms of the actual application, some of you have probably ventured into Sophist. It's the third-party application service for schools of public health around the country. So you go in there, submit your documents, and can have that application sent to whatever schools you would like. The bulk of requirements go directly to Sophist. So all of your previous coursework and transcripts, 3 letters of recommendation, your personal statement, and your resume all go into that Sophist application. The one big outside piece is our UIC supplemental application that you complete in the UIC system, and there is a supplemental fee that UIC charges of $70 as well. We have fought that, unfortunately, have lost, so that one is required. Big question this year, is the GRE required? Or actually, GRE test optional for all programs for this 2022 cycle. They're actually likely to be that way for at least the master's programs for 2023 as well. We're finalizing that now. But GRE is not required. If you do, you can choose to submit it if you think it'll help your application, but it is not required. In terms of the deadlines, the international deadlines have unfortunately passed. Those were December 15th. All of our doctoral deadlines have passed, but our domestic master's deadlines, those programs are open until April 15th. So there is still a little over a week to get an application in. That deadline is specifically to submit the actual application itself. We will allow a grace period for some of the supporting documents as long as you submit your actual SOPUS application by the April 15th date. We are on the back end of the cycle. So if you're thinking about applying, I really do encourage you to try to get it in as soon as possible. Just to make sure SOPUS has a verification process that can take some time. The sooner you get through all that, the sooner we can get it out to the program and ensure that you're still considered for this cycle. So definitely do encourage anyone thinking about applying to get it in as soon as possible at this point. These are just some kind of general tips and questions I get a lot from students. So first of all, in terms of our application review, it is a holistic review. Our faculty do a great job of really looking at the entirety of the application and considering all of the different components. There are not firm GPA cutoffs, or when we had GRE, firm GRE cutoffs. We certainly look at those things, but there are not cutoffs where you have to be at a certain number. We say 3.0 is our recommended minimum for GPA, but students below that do go forward, and we get students admitted below that threshold every year based on other strengths of their application. One of those big strengths can be your personal statement. So personal statement, we recommend around a page, 500 to 800 words or so. The only firm limit is the SOPUS limit, which is somewhere insane, like 25,000 words. Please do not submit an essay that long. Around a page is good. And we leave it open. So we do not give you a set prompt, but we like to see students focus on why do you want the degree you're applying for? How is the concentration a good fit? And then how does that fit with your future goals in the profession? Ideally, you can tie that in with your personal story, your journey into public health, and that makes for a really good personal statement. For most of our master's level programs, there is not an interview, so this is really your chance to speak directly to the faculty. So do encourage you to take time and think about that as you craft the personal statement. One caveat on that, students applying for research degrees like the MS or PhD should also touch on your potential research interests in the program. We do not require those students to have identified a faculty member who they want to be their research mentor, so that's how we do that. We look at your potential research interests and then make sure the application gets to the appropriate faculty members for review. So if you're looking at a research degree, make sure you're touching on what your potential research interests are. That does not have to be a fully mapped out project, but it should be kind of main topic areas that you'd like to work on for your research. In terms of the letters of recommendation, which I said 3 are required, academic or professional letters are preferred. There is not any set requirement on how many from either source. And the main reason for that is we really get applicants all different points in their careers. We get students coming right from undergraduate programs. We get students who maybe have been working a few years, and we get students who have been working 15 years in the field or in another field and want a career changing into public health. What we're really looking for is someone who knows you and can speak to your potential as a graduate student and your potential as a public health professional. Those are the things we're really looking for. Ideally, someone who really does know you and can speak to your strengths. That tends to make a stronger letter than a random faculty member who tells us you got an A in their course. We can see that on the transcript. So someone who really knows you and can speak to you is most important for the letters. So after that, so you've applied, you've been admitted, you're coming to the school. There are a lot of resources available to all of our students at the school. So just going to touch on those a little bit. First of all, in terms of cost, financial aid is obviously a huge question as people are coming into the school. We are, as I noted, we are a state public institution. So we really do try to keep tuition as low as possible. It's still expensive, but we are very valuable compared to other comparable schools of public health. UIC was named number 8 by the Wall Street Journal in terms of best value in education in the country. So we do have comparably low tuition compared to a lot of other schools of public health. We do qualify for federal aid, so completing the FAFSA during the application process is definitely worthwhile. And at the graduate level, it is unfortunately pretty much all loans, but we do qualify for that and definitely recommend that you complete it regardless, even if you're not planning on taking the loans, just because a lot of our scholarships and other things require that you at least apply for federal aid. So do recommend looking into federal aid if you're coming to the school. In terms of recruitment scholarships, we can sometimes offer scholarships with an offer of admission. Those are relatively limited, but students are considered for those automatically with their base application. There is no separate application that you have to complete to be considered for school level financial aid. So you could get something offered with an offer of admission. Like I said, it is pretty limited. We don't have a ton to offer for guaranteed aid up front, but some students will get an offer of funding with their main offer of admission as well. Once at the school, by far the most sought after forms of funding are assistantships. So teaching, research, and graduate assistantships. Teaching assistantships being helping a faculty member teach a course. Research assistantships being helping a faculty member with a research grant or research project. And then graduate assistantships, those are kind of a catch-all for all other things. The main one that we have is what we call our peer support team, which are typically second year and doctoral students who are tutoring for the first year core courses in public health. So essentially tutors who aren't tied to the course but can help with the concepts, which is also a resource I'll touch on. But the assistantships are so sought after because they do have a partial tuition and fee waiver and a monthly stipend attached to them. So those are great, tend to be much more common in the second semester and second year after students get enrolled at the school. Those faculty hire those directly, so just tend to be more common after you've taken those initial core courses and start networking with professors and advisors. Lastly, current student scholarships. Every year in January, we have an application for all of our current students to apply for all of our school level scholarships and awards. There's over 30 of those. So there are a lot of opportunities. So that application comes out every year for all of our current students. So once you're at the school, you'd be able to apply for all of those as well. Other resources. Me and Jake are in the Office of Student Affairs. We obviously do admissions and recruitment. We also have career services. I'll go into more detail on that in a minute. We have Michelle Rodriguez-Taylor, who's our applied practice experience advisor. She works with students as they're getting into that internship phase, helps talk through what potential interests are, maybe able to recommend sites. So it's really there to assist you as you go through that process. We have over 200 sites that we regularly work with on the APE. So we do have a lot of ties and opportunities for you. We do actually have you make the reach out to the organizations to find that, to get that skill set. But we do have a lot of resources available to you as you go through that process. We have registration and records in our office. And then in the actual building, in terms of physically, we have a student lounge right outside of our office, and there are computer labs equipped with SAS and some of the other computer software that you might need for some of the courses at the school. So there are study areas and opportunities to be at the school for group work and things like that. Within your program, you have additional resources. So every program has an academic coordinator. That's kind of your staff advisor, your main go-to person once you're at the school for any issues that arise. And every student does get a faculty advisor too. So you would get a faculty advisor this summer leading into your program. The faculty advisors typically are more career focused, and they do help with some course selection, but it's more career and networking and those types of things. So that's what the faculty advisor's role really is. And then there's a faculty internship advisor as well. So that person is similar to Michelle at the school level, except that they have more kind of specific content areas. So, for example, a community health student would talk to that faculty advisor specifically for community health focused opportunities on the internship. Career services I touched on, like to go into a little more depth because it's really important and something the schools really put a lot of resources into. So when I say we have career services, it is not just the campus level broad career services office. We do have public health specific career services. Laura Roman in our office is a fantastic resource for students. You can see some of the events and things she had on, this was, I believe, last fall, with events and things available. She does some of the basic things you'd expect, helping with resumes, helping with cover letters, recording mock interviews to help you practice interviewing, but then also does a lot of other workshops and things. So she'll talk to her students and ask them what types of workshops they're looking for. I think this year there was one on salary negotiation, so she's always flexible to work with students on what they really want, and then also does a lot of one-on-one meetings with students as they're getting into applying for jobs and graduating these programs, most of them being 2-year programs. It really goes quickly. So I know all of our MPH students right now, as they're approaching graduation, are really leaning on Laura, and she's a really great resource to students as they're graduating. We also have our Office of Diversity and Inclusion, which is a really great office right on the main floor as well, right down the hall from us. And they are tied to the Urban Health program at UIC. So Urban Health is across all of the health science campus. And our ODI program has a variety of activities. So one of the biggest ones that students really rave about is their summer pre-matriculation program. They have both a synchronous version that's kind of more like a class, and then an asynchronous version you can take on your own time. That is essentially prep in the summer as you're heading into your program. So a great opportunity to brush up on public health concepts, quantitative concepts, writing concepts, all of those things for especially students who may have been out of school for a little while and want to brush up on some of those things before they enter their graduate program. They also have that peer support team I talked a little bit about with assistantships. Those those are students who can help with writing and quantitative concepts. So we have writing specialists and quantitative specialists, and their role really is to help tutor students through that first year when they're going through the core courses. And the big benefit there is they are not tied to your course. So it's not a professor or a TA who has an impact on your grade. It's someone who can help you provide resources, help you prepare for a test, but you don't report to them. They're not grading you at the end of the day. So it is a really great resource. Variety of other things. Our Minority Health Conference every year is in the spring. That's a fantastic opportunity. And then MSAF leads me to our student orgs, which I can touch on. We have really great active student organizations at the school, really great opportunity if you want to get involved in student leadership, both from an experience perspective and helping to build your resume. These are the largest groups at the school. PHSA, Public Health Student Association, is the student council for the school. And then MSAP, Minority Students for Advancement of Public Health. Those are the two longest standing at the school. You can see a range of other ones as well. People often want to know what Radical Public Health is. They take kind of a new look at long-standing public health issues. So look at public health issues through a new lens, trying to find new, more creative solutions for public health problems. And they do a lot with our Epidemics for Injustice course, which is actually running through this spring. So if you're interested in some of those concepts, look at our Epidemics of Injustice course online. You can actually sign up and attend as just a member of the public. So that's a great opportunity if you want to get a little taste of some of the classroom life at the school. These are the contacts. So this is a good spot to take a screenshot or a picture if you're thinking about different programs. Jake and I are your go-to for any question on admissions, especially anything kind of broad about the school or about the application process. You can always reach out to either of us. If your questions are more program specific, so if you have questions on the curriculum for a program, you want to talk to a faculty member or a current student in a program, things like that, then it's best to reach out to the actual department directly. And these are the contacts for each of the departments. You'll see the health policy one is broader because they have a lot of programs. So that's health policy, their MPH, that's the healthcare administration, the MHA, the MSCTS, clinical and translational science. So they have a bunch of degree programs. So if you're interested in any of those, email them at the Ask HPA address, and they'll get you in touch with the right person from there. So I am going to stop sharing the screen. And we do have a few minutes for some questions before we open up those breakout sessions. So if anyone has one, feel free to raise your hand. It'd be great to hear someone's voice that's not mine. Or you can also pop them in the chat. I'm happy to answer chat questions too. All right, we have our first brave soul. Mary?
Hi, I was going to ask, so for those that are interested in applying to like conjoint degrees, for example, MD, MPH, but say you want to get the MPH first, is there like a way, I don't know, like is there like a way to apply for that so you could still like have that, like you know how you mentioned that you won't have to it won't take too long if you're doing the combined degree?
Yeah, so for the MD, MPH, we actually have kind of two different versions of it. So this year we did launch a strict 4-year MD, MPH in conjunction with UIC College of Medicine. That one you have to start in medicine first. You have to start in medicine and then apply to add the MPH. The beauty of that one is it does not add any time to medical school. So it's 4 years, and during that 4 years of medical school, you're doing the MPH as well. So that's a new, really great program. We just launched this year. It's going really well. We actually had 22 students from medicine add the MPH this year. So that's an opportunity, but you would have to apply first for medical school and then enter. You wanted to start in the MPH, and we've had many students do that through the years. You could do the 5-year version of that. So essentially, you would be doing your first year in the MPH, then you could enter medical school, and during the remaining 4 years, you would complete any remaining credit hours for your MPH. You definitely can do that, and it is a way. We've had a lot of students strengthen their applications through starting in an MPH as well. Next up, we have Vandana. Should be able to unmute. There you are.
Yeah, hi. So I have one question, actually 2 questions.
Sure.
One is about the certification program that you mentioned about the clinical research method. So how much, how longer it is? It is like...
Yeah, those can be completed in as little as 2 semesters, because I think the clinical research one or the health disparities research one has 4 courses, I believe. So you could do like 2 courses in a fall and 2 courses in a spring. The other nice thing with those is they tend to offer their courses every semester and they're fully online. So there's a lot of flexibility there. So could be done as quickly as 2 semesters, or if you wanted to, you could stretch it out and do 1 course each term. So there's a lot of flexibility with those, but they can be done in
so
little as
is there any requirement, prerequisition to take this course?
Most of them, no. The only absolute prerequisite is a bachelor's degree for most of the certificate programs. And those are, because they're not a full degree-seeking program, they don't have that. I talked about the SOFIS application. For those certificates, you actually just apply through the UIC system. So it's a shorter application process as well for those. And then generally, most, if not all of those credit hours would be transferable into a full MPH program if you decided to pursue that down the line.
Okay. So I have my master's in statistics. And so I am not sure whether do I need to do just biostatistic, the degree that you are offering, and also maybe the clinical research method. I'm in education field. I am an adjunct instructor and I teach at the community colleges. Now I want to switch my career as a statistician. So that's what I'm looking for. So for biostatistics, how did it, I already have my master's in statistics, so may I get some credit from there?
So you could get credit from there if you looked into one of the doctoral programs. You could potentially get up to 32 hours in the doctoral program. For a master's level degree or certificate, the credits can't double count towards 2 degrees. So you could potentially waive out of some courses, but you wouldn't be able to actually get the credit hours, if that makes sense. You could waive out of the course. And if you want to touch base offline or set up an appointment, we can go into a lot more detail if you want to talk.
Yeah, that would be great. May I know the contact information that I can reach out? Absolutely.
There is my email in the chat there. For everyone else, I'm also going to pop all of the breakouts. So we have the environmental and occupational health, epidemiology and biostatistics, and healthcare health policy administration. So that's their MPH, their PhD, and their MHA are all in that program or in that room. So I'm going to pop those in the chat. Feel free to jump over to those. I see there's still a couple hands up, so I'm going to stick around here and we'll continue to answer questions. Those will be open for a while, so if you want to ask a question here and then jump over, that is fine as well. So
before you go, is this the one that you type it down, that SIEGLAFF@UIC.com?
Yep, yeah, that's my direct email. So if you have kind of more direct, specific questions, you can certainly reach back out to me too that way.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. All right, Eunice, you are next up.
Hi, I have 2 questions, one broad and one maybe specific.
Sure.
For your PhD or Dr. PH programs, are your students typically working, or are they fully students, I guess?
So it varies a little bit. So for that DRPH program, definitely the vast majority are working, and the program has a strong preference for students to do that because it's designed for mid-career professionals, so they really want people to be bringing that experience into the classroom, and it's a cohort-based program, so they really learn as much from other students in the program as much as they do from faculty. PhD, the answer is much broader. So we absolutely do have full-time specific PhD students who are attending full-time, often working as like a research or teaching assistant as well. Might be doing other research projects. So we do have students doing that, but we also have people who are working full-time and are attending part-time. There is a lot of flexibility there with the PhD. Full-time, usually it's a 4-year program, so part-time takes longer, so it is a big time commitment, but students have technically up to 7 years to complete a PhD. So we do have a lot of students who are doing it part-time. Obviously depends on life situation and what you need. So there is flexibility there. And the PhD, the DRPH is pretty much all only part-time and people who are working full-time as well. Mary, you had another question?
Hi, I was going to
put your hand up. You do? Okay, great. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so for the I have like 2 questions. I was going to ask about, so if you're interested in having different courses in different like concentrations, for example, I'm interested in like community health, some public policy, and also kind of global health and like nutrition. I don't know. I was going to ask, is it possible to combine, like to take courses in different areas, or do I just have to stick with like community health?
So yeah, you can take, and just really quickly, I'm going to answer the question from the chat because there may be multiple people wondering this about a community health sciences breakout. They were unable to attend tonight. Stu, their main assistant director for academic services, had a conflict, so he couldn't attend. I'm going to stick around here and answer questions. I can answer questions about that program for the most part. And I'm putting Stu's email in the chat too. So Stuart is within the community health department. So if you want to touch base and have a one-on-one meeting after the fact, he'll be happy to do that as well. But on your question, Mary, the nice thing so there is flexibility with the elective credit hours. So you do have to choose one program, and you have to apply to that program, and that's your base. That will be your base course. You'll have the core courses, you'll have your program core courses, but then you do have room for electives beyond that. So you can take, a community health student could absolutely take their electives in the epidemiology program or the environmental and occupational health or health policy. There's a lot of flexibility there. So you can't do two concentrations. So you can't have a community health and epidemiology concentration, but you could do one of those and then take your elective courses in the other. So there is room there to take courses outside of your discipline based on your interests. You would work with that on your advisor, and generally programs will let students across the school take courses in pretty much any program within the school. And honestly, even sometimes students will take courses outside of the school if they can show how it fits with their interests. I'm going to stop the recording for us. We can stick around, everyone, please.
Recording stopped.
Stick around. I'm happy to answer questions here, but we don't have to record all of those. All right. Nanya? Did I say that
Yes.
right?
Hi.
Great. Yep.
I am from India, so I'm interested in pursuing my master's again. I have already done my bachelor's in pharmacy and then master's in clinical pharmacy. And I have almost around 3 years of experience in pharmacovigilance with 2 years more experience as a clinical pharmacist. So I'm thinking about pursuing my master's in epidemiology. So I found it pretty interesting. So I was thinking about the GRE and the other exams. So is GRE a mandatory exam that we need to give?
So for this year, we were optional for GRE across the board. So it was not required for any programs. For master's level programs, that is extremely likely to be the case again next year. We've made that decision. We're just kind of passing it along for final approval from school leadership. So GRE should not be required for any master's program next year. PhD is still kind of up in the air. Faculty are still discussing that. So depending on specific program, they may or may not require it, but master's level programs will not require it for the 2023 cycle.
Okay, and another question that I had regarding the job prospects for the international students, like how is it, like what are the scopes?
Yeah, so in terms of, so I talked a little about career services. We have over 93% positive outcomes for graduates, so either employed in the field or seeking higher education in the field within I popped those in the chat again for you there, Stacey. There you go.
Yes.
So students are placed at a very high rate in the field. I don't have the specific data for international students, so if you reach back out to me via email, I can likely get that for you. But overall, very strong placement rates in the field. Our MPH programs don't have, I know a common question for international students is if we're STEM designated, you get that OPT piece for to stay after the degree. MPH programs are not. Programs like epidemiology and environmental and occupational health technically qualify, so a lot of students have applied for and been granted the OPT. But then our master's, our MS and PhD in epidemiology and biostatistics do have that STEM designation, so have the full OPT too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. All right, Daniel, you're up next.
Yeah, hello.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to ask, right, what kind of healthcare experiences needed for the MHA program?
So for the MHA program, for the traditional track, there is no experience requirement. So the only absolute prerequisite is a bachelor's degree. Certainly any healthcare experience does help, but there is no experience required. So, and there's not any set course prerequisites either. So we certainly do see a lot of students coming from either health science backgrounds or business backgrounds, some healthcare administration backgrounds, but there are not any set major requirements or work experience requirements for the traditional track. The executive track, which is like the partially online and weekend program, does require at least 3 years of experience in healthcare administration setting.
Okay. And also, what is the minimum GPA to get into the MHA program?
So we do not have firm required minimum GPAs. The recommended minimum is 3.0, but every application goes to our faculty for review, and they really do look at the entirety of the application. So there's not a set minimum GPA.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Pajamu, you're up next.
Hi, I had a question about the between the big data analytics. So I do recognize, one is more of a interpretation of the, big healthcare data, and the other one is kind of what to do with that data. But I was kind of wondering, is there the requirements of a thesis for the MS versus the informatics MPH?
Exactly right. So that's the biggest difference. The MPH in public health informatics is technically a professional degree. So it has an internship and then a final project. So there is not a thesis attached to it. And to your point is more how it's working with databases and things on the back end with public health data. The MS, the health analytics degree, does actually have a thesis, but it has a full comprehensive exam like our MS in biostatistics does. So it's does not have an internship component. So it's much more heavy quantitative coursework. You're taking kind of the high level biostatistics courses, and it's really getting the skill set to analyze all of that data as opposed to kind of managing databases and things like that.
Gotcha. So is there a background, a specific background? Like, do you need to have already had like differential calculus 3, differential equations, linear algebra, programming right. in C+, and so is that, yeah.
Yeah, for the MS program, yes. So the MS program requires, I think it's through calculus 2 or 3 is what they require students to have coming into that program. So that program has more course requirements than a lot of our other programs. Are one of those of more interest to you? Because I'm happy to pop. So there's kind of
informatics.
Program?
Yeah. I mean, I've read a lot because I've been, looking things up at other, institutions. And I was really intrigued by your program being it's, 100% online. And it's the 2-year program, but I wasn't really clear on, what the qualifications were as far as background in courses, because I haven't done like calculus 3 or differential equations. I've only gone up to, calc 2 with, my biology bachelor's.
Yeah, for the MPH, the public health informatics are actually not set course prerequisites. So you would absolutely qualify with that background. And I put Roselia Veramonte, she's the online program advisor for that program. She's a really great resource if you want to get more details on the public health informatics program. So she can go into a lot more detail on it too.
And I actually had another question associated with that. It's about applying as a non-degree credit, graduate credit. So let's say, for example, I wasn't able to get a spot. Would I still be able to take, a class or 2 each semester, and then, of course, reapply, and that those credits be pushed over when I do get accepted to the program?
You could. So that program is still open for fall of 22. So if you did want to start this August, it's open until April 15th for the full MPH. We do also offer a public health informatics certificate program, which is a non-degree set of courses you can take for PHI. And if you apply later and come into the MPH, you can transfer all of those credits into that program. So that's a way to do exactly what you're talking about. Take a course or 2 each semester, and then potentially transfer those in for the full MPH at a later date.
Oh, so you're saying the certificate is a better way? I thought you had to apply as a non-degree student.
So the certificate technically is a non-degree student. You do get the actual credential at the end, which is a nice difference compared to a non-degree status. You could do it as non-degree status too, so that's available. But most students in that case choose to apply for the certificate because then when they complete the 4 courses, at minimum they get the certificate, as opposed to if you just take the courses, you don't get anything.
So is it a separate application for the certificate?
It is, but it's almost identical to the non-degree. So the certificate applications are just through the UIC website. You don't have to go through the big SOFIS application that you do for our degree seeking programs. So it's a pretty similar application process. You just complete the main UIC application, and then the program will reach out to you for a personal statement for the certificates.
Wait, but all my stuff that I put on SOFIS wouldn't be migrated over, right?
It would not, no. So if you're doing the SOFIS application for the main MPH, then I would focus on that piece. And then you could talk, certificate deadlines are far later. I don't think the fall certificate deadline it's July 15th or August 1st.
Oh,
so
okay.
If you're applying for MPH, apply for that, see how the decision comes back, and then you can decide if you want to do a certificate application, if not, admit it to the MPH.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, happy to help. All right. I saw a question in the chat around, so I'm going to answer that one quick, around funding for the DRPH program. Unfortunately, that program is not generally funded. That program, because students are working full-time, usually does not have any guaranteed funding. Students certainly are eligible to apply for all of our current student scholarships once in the program, but there usually is not any offer of funding with admission for the DRPH. DRPH is most commonly either self-funded by students, or many, because they are working full-time, may have some sort of employer reimbursement or tuition reimbursement. Mary, you are back up.
Yes, I still have a couple questions. I was going to ask.
Let's do it.
So regarding the SOFIS application, because I'm currently working on my SOFIS application. In terms of like the experiences, I know there's not like a maximum, but like can the experiences, I guess, like do they have to be related to public health, or could they just be like research or volunteering, stuff like that?
I'm sorry, I've had something pop up on. Can you ask that again?
Sorry, I was like regarding the SOFIS experiences. Like, does it have to be related to public health, or could it just be things that we've done, like research, volunteering, and stuff like that?
Absolutely, can be outside of public health too, and do recommend including those because it really helps to show the full version of you as an applicant. So definitely would recommend, if you have research experience and things like that, be sure to include that, even if it isn't public health specific or related.
And also, I was going to ask, so regarding like publication optional, because I remember like in the supporting documents for UIC, it kind of mentioned like there was like a publication optional thingy, and I wasn't sure what that meant. A publication sample, it says.
Publication, yeah, it would usually be like a PhD applicant if they did like a research thesis or something, or had a publication while they were in like an MS program or something like that. So vast majority of applicants do not include anything in the publication piece.
Okay.
But some, especially for PhD, something.
So like if you had done previous, like if you had something that was previously published, you can actually put it there, and it doesn't have to be related to public health, right?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Also, I was going to ask, regarding the class times, because I know you didn't mention, some of them you mentioned like the evening classes, but like for community health sciences, for example, and global health, is it like usually during the daytime, or is like evening classes, like what is the in-person option?
Yeah, for in-person, so for our core courses, the initial core courses you take, those are the most flexible. So in-person, we offer both a daytime weekday option and a weekday evening option for those courses. When you get into the upper level courses, those tend to be a little less flexible. They're often either weekday or online. There may be a few online or evening courses, so there's a few available when you get into the upper level, but not as many on the evening side. So tend to be weekday or online. Global health is a great concentration, but it is not very flexible. They typically only offer the courses once per semester, and it's a weekday on-site offering. They don't have like online.
Okay. And I was gonna, since we're talking about global health, I was gonna ask the other question. So regarding global health, I know you said that we can apply for that once we get in. So is there like I guess like once you are in like in the first semester, is there someone that we can reach out to help with the application, or
there is?
how do we find it?
Yeah, so during that first semester, the Global Health Program sends out way too many emails to our first year students with information on the program, invitations to events, and then that application. And they have a specific advisor. Keith Partica and Allison Lofthouse kind of work in tandem. There are staff people in Global Health. So they're there to help you through the process. It's a really easy application. It's basically one page you fill out because you've already applied and you're admitted and in the program. So students are generally admitted to that if they're performing well in their first semester of MPH. So we would blast that out to everyone during your first semester.
And also, so regarding the, so as I was asking you earlier, so like I know I looked through the community health sciences like catalog courses that you could take, and I know I saw some like nutrition. So like, I guess like, are there ways that you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do, or is it like a set number of like, you have to take this, like you must take all these courses and you don't have like a flexibility to choose which one you want to do?
There definitely is room to choose. So you have your set of core courses you have to take, and then your few set of like community health courses you have to take. But then beyond that, you have the ability to decide either your concentration and or your elective courses. So that's where you have a lot more flexibility to choose what specific courses you want.
You can
also sit down with your advisor early in the program and can map that all out.
And you can also choose from different like concentrations, like public policy, for example, and stuff like that. Yeah,
absolutely. You can take a community health student could take like a policy course from the other division. Absolutely.
Okay. And also, so regarding the global health aspect, so after your first semester and you finally get enrolled, is it like, does that extend your time in the MPH program, or do you finish it alongside your core, like your actual courses for the program you want to do?
Yeah, you can do global health within the 2 years of the MPH. Okay. So even if you add it during that first semester, you could still complete it in the 2 years. It does take up a big chunk of your elective credit hours. So when we talk about that kind of space of courses you can pick, that global health would be choosing those as a lot of those courses.
Okay.
You're not limited by that. We've had students who want to do global health, but they also want to take some maternal child health courses, and they may just take more credit hours than they are technically required to take in the 2 years. You don't have to do that. You can complete the global health in the set number of credits the program allows, but you only have so many elective courses. So at some point, you'd be taking extra courses if you wanted kind of multiple electives.
Okay, and this is my last question. So I was going to ask, once we submit the application, when are we going to hear back from the school?
Decisions, especially once we get into the new year, which we're obviously well past January 1st now, usually it's about 3 to 4 weeks from when your application is verified by SOFAS until you get a decision. This time of year, they may start to speed it up a little because we are getting towards the back end of the cycle. So I think could be as quickly as 2 weeks from that SOFAS verification, but usually about 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay, and it takes 3 to 4 weeks for SOFAS to verify?
They say it takes 3 to 4 weeks. It doesn't. Once you get everything into them, it's usually done within a couple business days. They give themselves a window, but it's usually done much faster.
Okay, and that's when we also, just to clarify that same question. Yeah. So, but once we submit both the UIC supplemental and the SOFAS, which is by the April 15th deadline, then we can expect to hear back from UIC in general, within 3 to 4 weeks? Or is that?
Yeah, if let's say you submitted right on the April 15th deadline, I would guess SOFAS would probably have it verified in, let's say, maybe 5 days. So you're looking at April 20th. Okay. So if you did that, you'd probably hear back in early to midnight, would be my estimate.
Okay, and the official transcripts don't have to be in, because I don't know, how, it might take time for the official transcripts to actually enter the SOFAS. So do we have to wait till they get in and let us know recommendation before we submit SOFAS? Or can we just submit that?
You can submit once you've completed everything on your end. So once you've completed everything, you can submit, but they won't actually start verifying your application until they have all of your transcripts and at least 2 of the 3 letters. Then they'll start.
Okay. And I know I said the last question, but I just remembered another one. Sorry. Regarding the UIC supplements application, I remember it talked about cumulative GPA, and since I took courses in community college before transferring to UIC as an undergrad. I don't know if it's saying like my total cumulative, or is it talking about like UIC specific courses for the UIC section of the coursework?
They'd be asking for your overall cumulative, and that may be somewhat hard to calculate, but if you can do that, great. But honestly, from our perspective, the actual application we review is the SOFIS application, and they will calculate out all of your cumulative GPAs and all those things. So certainly complete the UIC one, and we need it before we can process a decision, but the SOFIS one for us in public health is the one that we really look at for the actual review.
Okay, and SOFIS also has you have to pay for SOFIS too, right?
Sadly, yes. You have to pay both the SOFIS fee and the UIC.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Eunice?
Hello again.
Yes, hello.
So I am I'm mid-career and I have my MPH, and I'm curious about the Dr. PH. I think naturally, since I'm mid-career, I'm naturally gravitating towards Dr. PH, but I work in like child health outcomes, so I was really intrigued about the maternal child health focus in the community health science PhD program. So I was just wanting to learn more about that in regards to, like, are there any, does that area, partner with external organizations around Chicago? What are current students doing, and things like that? Or is that something that I should make an appointment with someone within that?
Yeah, so I do think if you're debating between those two, I would ultimately recommend talking to both of them, and I can pop their contacts in the chat here in a minute. So ultimately, I would recommend. I mean, broadly, sounds like both programs could work, but it really depends what you want. So that DRPH is focused in health leadership. You could potentially supplement it with some like maternal child health courses. Those don't have many online options, so doesn't fit perfectly with that program. But that program really is focused on giving you the skills to lead an organization. So if you like the organization you're working with and want to kind of work your way into leadership positions, it gives you that skill set, or other similar organizations. So it's more focused on that. It's someone who's mid-career and wants to focus on that piece for their doctoral degree. Whereas the PhD in community health and or maternal and child health sciences would be very research focused. So you'd be getting the research skills to conduct research. Potentially, most graduates from our PhD tend to go in toward like faculty type positions. DRPH students can't. We've had plenty of DRPH students do that, but it's not necessarily what the program is designed for. The maternal and child health program does work with a variety of different entities around the city and the state. The maternal child health has a center for research at UIC. So there are a lot of opportunities for our MCH students to work in research as they're going through that program. So I'm going to pop the two. The first one is very basic. It's just DRPH at UIC. That goes to Sophie Nagy, who's their academic coordinator. She's great. And then specifically for the maternal child health program, Gabby Massini is their assistant director for maternal child health. So if you want to talk to her, she can go into a lot more detail on the Center for Research, the PhD in maternal and child health, and help you with that as you're kind of grappling with which one might be the best fit.
Thank you. So you typically don't see like those doing maternal child health or any, I guess, PhD programs compared to Dr. PH, the PhD students going into a field that's non-research?
So there's always exceptions. So we certainly have PhD students who are working more in a practice-based setting and not doing just full research all the time. It's just more kind of what the programs are designed for and what the majority of graduates are doing. So majority of PhD go into research for faculty, majority of DRPH go into stay more on the practice side and are working in leadership roles in organizations, kind of working, on public health issues. There's overlap though. And there's certainly, you get research exposure in the DRPH program. You get exposure to like policy courses and things like that in the PhD program. So there is overlap and there's no set rule. The those are very high level skill sets, so they're in demand in a lot of different sectors and industries. So they're not limiting. It's just what the program focus is going to be is really the main difference.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, Daniel, you are back up.
Yeah, for the MHA program, the preceptorship, is it one full year, no classes, just work, or it's both class and work?
It is both. So you're doing it during your second year in the program while you're also taking courses. It does count for credit hours, so you're taking less courses than you would if you were in the first year in the program, but you are doing both. So you're both learning in the classroom and you're out getting that experience in the internship. And it's all kind of built in together so you're doing both at the same time.
Okay, so are we going to have to look for a place, or the school is going to put us somewhere? How does it work?
It's kind of a hybrid. So it is not a set placement. We don't say, here's your placement, this is where you're going. So we do work with students to find something that fits their interests and make sure it fits with what you want for your career. So you're getting experience that's directly related to what you want to do after graduation. But we do have long-standing relationships with a lot of different entities. So the MHA program works with a lot of different hospitals and health centers and things like that our students traditionally work at. So they have long-standing relationships and can help you with that as you're going through, but it is not just a set placement where you say, okay, this is where your preceptorship is.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. All right. Jamu? Am I saying that right, Jamu?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, great.
Jamu.
Jamu,
Yeah.
great.
So I believe you did touch on this earlier when someone asked about the transitioning into the MPH program. So let's say, for example, I do the MPH and the informatics. I do 1 year of that, but during that first year, of course, I get accepted and start my first year of medical school. Would I still be able to complete the last year of that informatics master's at a later date?
You could. Yeah, you definitely could. So you have a few options. So students who, if they end up enrolling in medical school at UIC, can join the 5-year joint program. So then they switch over to MD and can kind of filter in the remaining MPH hours during those 4 years of medical school. Because you can get a big chunk of them done in the first year. Students who are going into medical school the following fall usually try to build in as many credit hours in that first fall, spring, summer that they can, so they get as much of the program done as possible. If you go elsewhere, you have two options. So one, you could pursue the MPH part-time as you're going through your other program. And take like a course. It kind of depends on the students. Some students want to do that. Others want to focus solely on medical school. So you could, in theory, come back as what we'd call a readmit student down the road, and the majority of those credits count. It kind of depends how long. So if it's a couple years, usually all of the credits count. If it's 10 years later, then you talk with the program and they let you know what will still count and what you'll need to kind of retake and do to finish the program. But definitely could take like a year. You also could take a leave of absence. So that's another option, in which the big difference there is you're technically still in the program. Whereas if you just stop taking courses, you phase out, and then you'd have to do what we call like a readmit application. If you're doing well in the program, it's not hard. Like I said, most of the credits usually count, but it varies a little bit based on how long you've been out of the program and some of those other factors.
I see. Okay. Now, is there any type of, connection you all have with the medical school? That's for students who are interested in obviously pursuing the MD.
So yes and no. So I mean, we certainly do. We work very closely with the College of Medicine. I'm on the committee that when we launched that 4-year MD MPH, I talked a little bit about. So we work very closely with them. So there is a really good relationship between the two schools. We work together a lot, both on the joint programs, and then there's a lot of research and other work going on. So there is a connection. We unfortunately don't have like a preference for our students in terms of admissions for the MD. But someone who's at UIC already doing well in the MPH program, that definitely does hold weight in the MD application process. And they know a lot of our faculty, and we have a lot of MDs on faculty. So potentially you could find a faculty member who has a lot of connections in the College of Medicine, like write a letter of recommendation or something like that, which can be really helpful too.
Okay. Now, does that also mean that during that whole 5-year, you would be able to still do that, internship that's required for the MPH while you are still doing the medical school as well?
Yep, exactly. So depending on how you structure it, so that 5-year joint program, if you do the MPH the first year, would really, really recommend trying to do the internship the summer before you start the M1 year of medicine. That's the summer most of our MPH students do it, and that way you have it done before you get into medicine. When we used to do the 5-year program, the MPH year was after the M3 year. So then students would do their MPH year and their internship that summer after before their final year of medical school. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, and we can be flexible on it. But if you're starting in the MPH, I would definitely try to do it that summer before your M1.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're very welcome. Mary?
I'm back again. So,
what are you here for?
So I was going to ask a question that he just asked regarding, or similar to what he just asked, regarding the integrative experience and integrated learning experience and the practice experience. I was going to ask, so do we have faculty advisors or mentors that will help us to choose what to do and how to go about it, or are we just kind of left on our own and good luck with whatever you want to do and that's it? I don't know, how does that work?
Definitely not that. We do have a lot of resources. So for the applied practice experience, specifically the internship, we have both someone at the school level and then at your program level there to help you. And we have over, like I said, 200 active sites that we work with. So we have a lot of options for students. We don't limit you to that. So we will always work with new partners. If you find something you really want to do, we're happy to work with new organizations and help to continue to build our network. But there are people there. So Michelle in our office works with students and knows all of those different sites and works with them directly. So kind of talk to students, what are your interests? What are you looking for? And oftentimes has connections that she can say, okay, well, this person in this organization would be a really good person for you to talk to. We do not do the placements. We do not place you in positions because we really do want our students to get that experience of reaching out and interviewing and doing all of those types of things as they're going through the program. So we offer support, we have resources, we have connections, but then you do a lot of the actual legwork in terms of reaching out and finding your internship. Our students don't have problems finding internships. I mean, there are resources at the school to help you with that process.
Okay, and I was also going to ask regarding that. So I know you said that you could do the applied practice learning within after the first year, the summer between the first and the second year, and then the integrated learning is the capstone, the final year, right? So how long is each one? So if we didn't apply learning experience, if we want to take summer classes, is that going to be the only class you take? Are you working somewhere? I just don't understand what it is per se.
There's a lot of flexibility with it. So we don't have a huge summer course offering. We don't have a ton of courses in the summer.
Okay.
So the majority of students, if they are full-time students, do that internship as kind of a full-time basis over the summer and take it as a full 5 credit hour component. So that's the only thing they're doing in the summer, probably working at a specific site for maybe 8 weeks or so on a full-time basis. So it's essentially a full-time job for the summer in a public health specific area.
Is it paid?
It can be.
It can be, okay.
They can be. Majority are not. Majority are not paid. You can absolutely seek. We have a few that sometimes employers will pay for them. It's case by case based on the employer. Majority are not, though. But that is not the only way to do that. So that is an option, and a lot of our full-time students choose to do it that way, but it's much more flexible than that. So when we have part-time students, they may do it over the course of a whole semester because they're working full-time and do it in evenings or weekends. Or once you have your site determined, it's really between you and your preceptor on site determining exactly what your hours will be, how many days you need to come in, those types of things. So it most commonly is done in the summer as kind of a full-time position, but it can be stretched out much longer. It can be part-time. It can be stretched out over a full semester. Actually, technically it could even go into a second semester. So there is a lot of flexibility with it.
And does UIC, because I know some schools have like specific amount of hours, like 100 hours or 200. So like does UIC have like a specific amount, or is it just kind of like, I don't know?
It does. So it's 3 to 5 credit hours, and each credit hour has a certain number of required contact hours. I think, don't quote me exactly on this, it's around 180 hours, I want to believe, around the
Around, okay.
Yeah. And if you want to do the full 5 credit experience, which counts towards your credits for the program, it builds from there. But Michelle, and once you get in the program, would share all of that. But there is a set number of contact hours you need to be working.
And does the site determine, does it have to be related to like your own, like the one, so like for example, if I'm trying to do community health, does it have to be related to that? Or can I just kind of like, or do you do it by interest? Like maybe you're interested in like maternal and child health. I don't know. I'm just giving examples.
Yeah.
Do you choose based on that, or?
It's really, ideally you should choose based on your interests and talk with the program and your advisors about finding something that really fits with what you want to do after graduation, because that's going to give you actual practice experience. So then when you're applying for jobs, you have experience in that area. Perfect world, that's how it should look. Sometimes students will do it in something that's not quite perfect because they like that position or, a variety of reasons. But ideally you would do it in your specific interest area where you want to work after graduation.
Okay, and for the integrative learning experience, so for that one, is that like, does it also have a fieldwork component, or is it just kind of like just written?
So that's the final project. It used to be only a capstone, which was essentially had a brief written component and then like an oral presentation, question and answer. Now it is much broader than that. The accrediting body opened it up. So there's written options, there's like a portfolio option, there's a range of options. So your program would share all of that when admitted, but there's a range of things. It's a 1 credit hour project done during your final semester of the program.
And do you have to partner with like a specific faculty, or are you just kind of like by yourself working on that independently?
You work with your specific faculty advisors. So everyone has a faculty advisor and they help you through that process.
Okay, and also that same faculty advisor is going to help you in terms of like determine the applied practice experience also, right? And when
so not as much on that. For that, we have the school level person, and then there is one applied practice experience advisor within each department. So for example, community health sciences, that's one specific person who works with all the students in that department on the internship component. Sometimes your faculty advisor may know someone in an organization you want to work with, and they may help you with that. But usually it's our school level person and then the specific applied practice experience advisor in the program to help with that part of it.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm happy to help.
Have a nice evening.
Yeah, you too. Have a great evening. Does anyone else have any questions? If you do, feel free to either raise your hand or pop it in the chat. There you
I'm sorry. Hey, Brandon, I just emailed you regarding whatever we talk and in detail that where exactly I need and where exactly I need the guidance.
Great.
So, I mean, I live here like 40 minutes away from the campus, so I can come to the campus and, with the counselor, I can talk about that and I can start from this summer.
Great. I do see your email, so I got it. I will reply likely sometime tomorrow with maybe some times in the next week.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time, but I just say that, just regarding, I mentioned also that we talk about during the Zoom, and so, that way you can just visualize like, okay, I talk about this.
Absolutely.
During the Zoom.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
I will follow up with that. But yeah, happy to set something up so we can meet in the next couple of weeks and hopefully get you set up.
Perfect. I just need some guidance so I can start from there.
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for. Happy to help.
Thank you so much, Brandon.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for coming. Any last questions for anyone else? All right, great. I'm going to go ahead and end this then. I'll pop my email in the chat one more time. If you ever have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help. Mary, yeah.
Sorry, I was going to ask you, could you talk about the DRE statement that's optional? Because I have trouble figuring out how to write it, because I just don't know like how, because it wants you to prove that you have qualitative and quantitative abilities, and it's kind of hard to, I don't know how to go about writing that.
So what that is, so for students not submitting a GRE, it is required. So if you're not submitting a GRE, you have to submit those statements. They don't need to be long statements. They can just be a few sentences. They can be as long as you want them to be, but most students are submitting just a few sentences. And it's really just to point to parts of your application that show strength in those areas. So for the quantitative one, for instance, you can say, oh, these are specific courses I took, and that we can see in the application, but it helps to point it out specifically and say, I got an A in these courses. But it also gives you the opportunity to point out other things that might not be so obvious. So you may say, oh, in this position that I have in my resume, I did this, this type of quantitative work, and I had that experience. Or in this course, I did this specific project, and it had these quantitative components to it. So it's really just, it's really meant to help students. So it's really an opportunity to say, this is where I can show that I'm strong in these areas. And we didn't want students to be hurt by not being able to submit GRE scores. So it's a chance to point to certain parts of your application that that show that you're strong in those areas, if that makes sense.
And could you talk about the qualitative one? So like how, because I was having trouble like I've written essays. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, yeah, that's really it. It's really showing kind of like a written, your ability with written and those types of concepts. So talking about things you've written, communications you've done in projects or courses or work or volunteer experience, those types of things. So anything that shows your kind of verbal writing, those types of skills is what they're really looking for there.
Okay, so like, could you also point out like courses you've taken? I don't know if that also reads for that, or if that's just kind of like the quantitative part.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've taken a large number of those types of courses and written a lot of papers and those types of things, you can point to those and say, oh, I took these courses, got these grades in those courses. That's absolutely a way you can do that.
Okay, so that's all we have to say. Okay, thank you so much. I wasn't sure like how long it had to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Not super long. And if you were talking about a publication, so something like that could be something you pointed to, like, oh, I have this publication and I uploaded it too. Yep.
Okay. And regarding publication also, for like, because I know like the sample, does that mean we have to upload the actual article that we did there, or is it just like the website? Like, I don't know how it wants us to upload.
It'll be like a Word or PDF file, so you would have to have the actual document. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. You're very welcome.
Have a great evening.
Yeah, you too. Anyone else? All right, fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Hope you all have a great evening, and feel free to reach out if you have more questions. Have a good night.